dishonesty was on full display if you were either brave enough or foolish enough, depending on your point of view, to delve into Twitter over the weekend. You saw that dishonesty on full display. It was unbelievable, the allegations that were coming out. And of course, the earliest tweets I saw, I mean, we were following this as soon as it started breaking. The earliest posts I saw were people clearly and gleefully hoping that this was something racial, because they wanted to push the narrative of white hate, white toxicity, male toxicity, I suppose, CRT, that America fundamentally despises minorities, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And so the gleeful tweets, the hoping tweets, were all over the place. And then as his manifesto began to circulate, we started seeing snippets of it. And indeed, it turned out he was a wild and rabid racist, frankly, of the kind that we remember from the early 20th century with the Democrat Party.
Yeah.
One of the most ironic things in all of this is that the media and the political acolytes on the left, they started immediately blaming Tucker Carlson. And when the left universally blames someone, what does that mean, Grant?
It usually means that that person is not really to blame, and that there's another reason that they are hiding,
and that person may be a threat.
Right.
And
that they're afraid of that person
and
the power that person may have against them.
So tweets started circulating nonstop. I think it was Media Matters maybe came up with a tweet showing a bunch of times Tucker Carlson had referenced ideas linked to this thing called the Great Replacement Theory. And the Great Replacement Theory, we'll talk about that in a second, but the left views it, and the left reports on it, as an unbelievably racist idea. The problem, Grant, with blaming that on Tucker Carlson is it was written, it was researched, it was discovered, it was codified in a book in the 30s by a U.S. senator from what party, Grant?
I'm going to go with the Democrat Party.
The Democrat Party. That is right. That is right. I think, if I'm remembering correctly, I think his name was actually Bilbo, Senator Bilbo. And he wrote on this idea of a great replacement theory. The idea was that, for him, was that you had to keep the white race pure, and that since minorities were entering the country and that they were in danger of outbreeding white people, that eventually they were going to replace white people, and white people would be displaced and would become the minority. And that was an enormous problem to him because, like the left today, he viewed everything through racial terms. And he was terrified of the idea that that minorities might one day become the majority. But Grant, you watched some Tucker Carlson. I watched Tucker Carlson. I've never heard him espouse anything like the replacement theory as it relates to race.
No, I mean, he talks about it as it relates to, the crisis at the southern border.
Illegal immigration.
Which is a massive problem. I mean, it doesn't matter what race those people are. It doesn't matter if those people are white. If you're coming in illegally across the border, then that's a massive problem, and that's something that should be addressed. I think, honestly, when you see the left talk about this great replacement theory, and I'm not going to sit here and say it's definitely true or whatever, it's a little bit out there. It may have some merit to it. I don't know. But what I've noticed is that the left has not one time been able to address this with facts or debunk it per se. All they've been able to do is say that's racist that you would even say that, and then when something happens that is terrible, that's a tragedy, like happened this weekend, and then that person happened to subscribe to this theory, then they use that tragedy to somehow throw cold water on this idea, but they've never actually debunked the idea. It's just that this one person who believed the idea happened to also be crazy. That doesn't necessarily mean that the idea is wrong. It means that this person was crazy.
So what idea are you talking about?
Just the replacement theory in general. I mean, not like to the extent that some radical people say, but just the idea that Democrats, I think that there is some truth to the fact that Democrats want to bring in a new voting bloc. That is why.
Yes,
That
for
is
sure,
why they're
for
allowing
sure.
people to come across the southern border because
For
they
sure.
think that they can get their vote. I mean, I
Yeah.
think not that they were trying to replace whites or that whites are better than everyone else, but the idea that they're trying to replace American voters with new people. I think we see evidence of that.